Hello, I'm Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Friday Red Alert Report for June 9th. We've had a spectacular week of victorious commemorative days, including June 7th, which was the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem out of the hands of the Jordanians in the Six-Day War. It also happened to be the 73rd anniversary of the Allies and U.S. victory on the beaches of Normandy at D-Day. With that said, some other exciting edicts that happened in present day. The Czech Republic's parliament on June 7th, by a clear majority, passed a resolution officially recognizing Jerusalem as the official capital of Israel. And it urged all the other government agencies and arms to adopt the same stance. It also urged a removal of all funds to UNESCO, which has been openly and unabashedly biased and even discriminatory against the State of Israel in its recent resolutions. The U.S. Senate, on June 5th, unanimously passed a resolution commemorating the reunification of Jerusalem at the end of the Six-Day War. This was clearly a bipartisan effort, and I will read you a quote that is part of the resolution. Jerusalem should remain the undivided capital of Israel in which the rights of ethnic and religious groups are protected. There has been a continuous Jewish presence in Jerusalem for 3 millennia. This is a very important fact to underscore in the U.S.'s public resolutions bipartisanly passed for the world to read. A continued Jewish presence in Jerusalem for 3 millennia. At the same time, Nikki Haley, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, has publicly announced this week that the U.S. may remove its participation in UNESCO, this human rights council, because of its hypocrisy and anti-Semitic bent, as it continues to single out Israel for so-called human rights violations while not addressing other obvious and documented violations by other nations, including member nations. On June 3rd, Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, told officials from the Simon Wiesenthal Center that, quote, denial of Israel's right to exist is anti-Semitism. So we have some great supporters of Israel's in key leadership positions around the world making public statements supporting the Jewish presence in Jerusalem, the celebration of the reunification, how it should be an undivided capital, and that there is a systemic presence in the UN to discriminate against the State of Israel. And these are things we need to pray that these folks in these political positions can continue to make their voices heard and make progress. This is extremely important. Voices of truth are crying out from all corners of the world, but with this, of course, is the rise of the opposition as it doubles down. And this includes dealing with the pockets of violent terror that we see in the streets of Europe, and unfortunately this week, London had to feel the brunt of. BDS, Boycott, Divest, and Sanction, which is a so-called political movement, is a seemingly less violent arm of the same vein of clearly anti-Semitic mindsets, and it has reared its ugly head in the arts again this week. Wonder Woman, for example, is a feature film released worldwide, and it was received with critical acclaim by all types of people in all walks of life. Not only that, it stars an Israeli actress, Gal Gadot, who has served in the IDF and during the Lebanon War, and she fought against terrorists herself, personally. So this is an important, strong, and just a unique woman for the women of the world to look up to. And it is important that she has this position as Wonder Woman in a feature film. However, Lebanon did not agree, and it has actually banned the film from being shown in Lebanon simply because of its Israeli star. I do not see any Middle Eastern movies or any kind of movie starring an actress or actor of Middle Eastern descent or of any nationality being barred in Israel from being screened. So this is clearly a double standard. Now, just this week, Jordan has decided to follow suit, and it is considering an official ban. Prior to the official ban, a government agency from Jordan has issued the following quote: "We remind the Jordanians of their obligation to boycott the film. We refuse to be partners of crimes to the Zionists and increase their profits in this film. The Arab audience will not be involved in projects that represent Zionism and the Israeli army." This, of course, is extremely sad and misguided. And it also proves that even though Jordan signed a peace agreement in 1994 with Israel, clearly it is rallying its population to continue to hate their next-door neighbors. In addition, in the music community, Radiohead, a band, their frontman Tom York had an article in Rolling Stone magazine this week where he, with some interesting expletive, voiced his opposition to Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, who has been rallying personally to his group to not perform in Tel Aviv. I will not quote from Mr. Tom because his passion is not necessarily appropriate for our podcast. But he has been very frustrated and openly irritated by Waters and other members of his position that bands should not be performing in Israel. York did note that the BDS crowd is arrogant, to say the least, and that their own guitarist, Radiohead guitarist Jonny Greenwood, was particularly hurt by the band being subjected to constant harassment by Waters over the upcoming event. Jonny Radiohead has Palestinian and Israeli fans, and Johnny's wife is actually an Arab Jew. York went on to say, and I will provide one quote, "It is really upsetting that artists I respect think we are not capable of making moral decisions ourselves after all these years. They talk down to us, and I just find it mind-boggling that they think they have the right to do it. It's extraordinary." Waters, as I mentioned, is constantly rallying music performers of all music genres not to perform or tour in Israel at all. And many musicians find that counterproductive and have refused to take heed. Many artists have also spoken out publicly against it, and that includes Jon Bon Jovi. So they've all recognized that this is counterproductive, to say the least. So we've had a particularly good week, I would say, in progress as far as the truth being proclaimed to the world from various points of power of the reality of who Israel is and its position in history. Shavua Tov. Have a great week, and Shabbat Shalom.